idea of what's going on, and then that whole fight ensues. And when Neil chases down, so you think that there's two of them. Essentially, there's only one, but Neil ends up chasing the other guy down the hallway, while the protagonist is fighting the other one, and you see him pull off the mask. But the way that this point of view is shot is you only see Neil pulling off the mask, and the other guy kind of falls behind the corner where you don't see anything else. And at that moment, I automatically assumed that Neil, I was right to assume it, but Neil knew who the person was, or I actually thought it might have been him from the future. I thought it might have been Neil's character, because I thought he was. I had already, like I said before, I already had kind of questions or doubts about his character in the first place, so I was automatically like analyzing everything that he did, because I thought I was just waiting for him to kind of turn on the protagonist. But that happens. They get out, right?
Yep.
They end up escaping.
I think we cut to Italy. Kat introduces the protagonist to Sator, and I think they learn that the drawing is still intact. Everything's fine, and I think there's a huge jealousy factor with the fact that the protagonist had kind of come to Kate and try to talk to Kate rather than Sator first, and there's this huge fight that I think we skipped over in the restaurant when the protagonist the protagonist goes to see Kate at this restaurant and kind of pitch her like setting up a meeting with Sator, and and she's like, I don't think that this is gonna, you're gonna be pretty much that you're gonna be around for me to set up that meeting. And he's like, oh well, I might surprise you, and a bunch of Sator's goons come in, and they try to jump him in the back while Kate makes her swift escape. And they make Kate wait to see basically, the protagonist all beat up and whatnot on the street. But he turns the being trained, turns the tables on them and just beats the living shit out of all those guys.
Oh, yeah. I would say the fight scene is amazing.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Especially that one, I love. That one, I was like, all right. There's a reason to stick with this, I mean, just John fucking up that dude with the cheese grater, man.
That was freaking. That was sick.
And the way that he does it is just like it's just another day, like he just throwing people through the freezers and all kinds of stuff, man. And keep
it's another Tuesday.
Yeah, keep in mind these guys are all shapes and sizes, and he just cuts them down with his hands. So then Kate sees that he beat all them up, and that he's maybe cut from a different cloth, and we cut to another meeting with Sator, and the protagonist shows up, and him and Sator have words for the first time, and Sator's, I feel like he suspects that maybe the protagonist has some kind of weird like sexual feelings towards Kate. Yeah. Where he's like, "Yo, like, did you sleep with my wife?" And he's like, "No, not yet."
That was such a badass line. Oh man, the balls on this guy.
Yeah, and then Sator doesn't like that much and kind of threatens him, and he's like, "We're gonna take you up to this place and fucking cut your throat and then rip your balls off and shove them in your throat, and then we're gonna watch you like try to breathe or remove the balls from your throat so you could breathe." And John just looking at him, and he's like, "Oh, that's complex." So he's like not threatened whatsoever. But so Sator attempts to throw him out, and then he drops this kind of code word where he's like, "Are you a fan of the opera?" And then Sator's kind of demeanor changes, and he's like, "Well, then what should we go? Where do we go from here?" And he's and the protagonist, is like, "Well, we shouldn't do it here." And then Sator immediately is like, "Meet me on the dock at 8 a.m. You better know, how to run boats or whatever." And so then we cut to them on these weird kind of power boat thingies. I don't know if those actually exist. I've never seen them.
Those are pretty cool. I've never seen those ever, but at least I've never seen boats like that do that type of stuff that they did. But that was pretty interesting.
So basically, they're trying to make a deal, or the protagonist and Sator are trying to make a deal about the painting, and then Kate kind of cuts in. Obviously, she's upset because of the hold that Sator has on her and her child, Maximilian. It's important that I say her kid's name is Max. And so she releases his harness thing, so he goes flying off into the water, loses consciousness, and would have drowned had not the protagonist, jumped overboard and saves him in order to kind of save this deal. And and then later on, Kate is really upset and was like, "Why didn't you let him drown for? I can't believe you. You know what he's doing to me and all this." And he's like, "Yo, you don't really know who I am, and I need him to continue this mission. I'm really sorry." And then that's when I think Sator says, or no, one of his goons comes and tells the protagonist, like, "Yo, Sator wants to see you now." And then what happens next?
That's when they have that meeting, and he's talking to him about he does have a meeting with Sator in his little office area in his boat, and he kind of thanks him, and he's like, "I owe you now, and I don't like to pull ever. So what do you want in return?" Basically, that's when they start talking about the plutonium, right?
Yes.
Because he knows that Sator is also he's an arms dealer as well. So he's trying to buy some military grade plutonium from him, or that was stolen. And damn it, Wes, you've watched this 3 times. I've only seen it once.
It's okay. So they basically agree to have the protagonist and Neil go get the case of plutonium in a place called Talon, and this is where the kind of that ambush happens with the fire truck.
Right. Yes, that was very man. I mean, all of these little heist moments are so well done and so put together so well.
Yes.
Just for those scenes alone, like you were saying, the fight scenes and then these scenes as well is probably the main reason. I would say that you want to see those happen. It's just they're so precise, and I mean everything that happens and along those scenes, those types of scenes throughout the movie, is definitely worth the watch. Even if you don't understand the movie, just to see those. I mean, but that's when they come up with this plan to for John David Water, the protagonist, to break into the transport vehicle that's holding the plutonium. Correct?
Yes.
Or what they think is plutonium,
which ends up being this kind of lost artifact. Something that they've never released. They don't know really what it is at that point, I believe. Yeah.
So John David Washington, the protagonist, ends up getting it. That's when they they break into the transport vehicle. He gets back into his car with Neil. They take off, and then at that point, that's when you start seeing more of the kind of like reverse time stuff happening on the highway as they're driving.
Yeah,
there's a.
I was just gonna say the introverted version of Sator and his boys come to attack them and basically try to get that artifact back, but they're in inversion mode, and it's really wild to watch.
Yeah, but it's funny, just like hearing you say that and trying to if you were trying to explain that to somebody who had never seen it, what the fuck? What do you mean, inversion mode? Okay, it's so weird because oh man, it's just that is so weird. But anyways, yeah. So they get into it with them, and it was crazy here. They end up. The protagonist ends up getting caught, right?
Well, there's different timelines that happen, but right now they basically they use Kat as leverage. They have her kind of hostage, and they tell him either I'm going to kill her or you hand over the artifact. So then the protagonist throws it from a car length away perfectly into their hands. It's so bizarre to watch that, even if it's in version. Yeah,
it's so weird because it's in reverse, so the way they catch it is so weird also.
Yeah, but even playing that out it's just how did you manage to do that in the first shot? You know what I mean? It was crazy, and then they have another car come, and they just all his goons and Sator just leave Kat in the car, in the SUV, and jump into another car and leave the SUV in going backwards, with nobody driving it. So then there's this huge kind of suspense-filled scene where there's oncoming traffic coming, and Neil and the protagonist are trying so hard to time it right where the protagonist can jump in and save Kat before she hits the traffic and probably would have died or had really serious injuries because she obviously didn't have her seatbelt on. But the protagonist jumps in and then, in just the nick of time, and somehow presses the brake pedal with his hands, and goddamn, that SUV has really good brakes.
Oh yeah, I felt like he pressed that. He barely tapped it with his finger, and you hear the screeching of the tires already. I'm like, damn, those are brand new brakes.
Yeah, and it stops so nicely. I feel like at the speed they were going, I was expecting something a little nastier, but okay, whatever. Yeah, and then
that's when he has the conversation with Neil, right?
Yeah, he has this conversation, and then I think, or no, he's still in the car with Kat, and then they get ambushed again, and Neil gets pinned down. They're firing him, and then they basically kidnap the protagonist, and then
that's right. That's when they kidnap him. Okay.
Yeah, and then Sator takes I can't remember if Kat is introverted there or she's not introverted. I know he is, if that makes sense.
I think that again, it's so confusing trying to explain that. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think he is. I don't think she is, because he sits her down, and then it was so funny. When he's talking to him, he's talking backwards.
Yes.
But I'm confused. Did the protagonist understood him though, right?
Yeah, it was like he was saying it on the other side of the glass, and then it would come through like it would play
normal.
Yeah, it would play normal on the other, on the present time side. You know what I mean? Like you